My name is Howard Napper. I'm a meditation and yoga teacher. I'm also an ex-model. I think it's really important that we give positive information in general, and if we can do that to models that are also role models for so many people, then obviously that's going to be a benefit, because they have such influence in our lives, whether we realize it or not. I think we're onto a winner. I grew up on the King's Road, and this was in the 60s, where the King's Road in Chelsea was a big centre of fashion within the whole of England. So it was being born into an environment that was around fashion, and I was fascinated by it. I loved it. I wanted to be a designer, and as I grew up, I started to work in a number of fashion houses. I worked for Yves Saint Laurent, I worked for Chloe, and eventually became an apprentice to who I consider to be one of the best designers at that point, was Manolo Blahnik, who was a shoe designer. I got to meet a lot of editors, and one day one of the editors turned around and asked what I was doing the following day. Did I want to be involved in a shoot? And that was my first fashion shoot. It was 1978. It was for Bazaar, and I was 18 years old. And after that, I started to travel, did time in Paris, did time in Milan, ended up living in New York and having a nice life, and it was great. I was in the best part of fashion, you know, with something that I really loved. So I was great. It was fantastic. But it wasn't all great, because it was starting to take a toll. Well, I realize now, actually, you have to have a certain mentality to be in fashion and as a model. There's a certain attitude that you have to be quite tough, because obviously you're being judged the whole time. And that's not a good thing, it's a bad thing, it's just the way the nature of the business is. You need to go up for work, and they're going to judge you, and you're going to be too tall, too small, too fat, too thin, too blonde, too dark, you name it. They're all just right. And if you're just right, you get the job. It's nothing personal. But when you're doing that day in, day out, it takes its toll. Plus, the nature of fashion, I think, is interesting. What we love about it is it's so transient. Very happy on one level, but on another level, I was very sad. I was depressed, and chronically depressed. And that led to suicidal thoughts. So I really went through a hard time being in there. And that doesn't make sense. I had everything that I wanted, everything I set out to get. Yet at the same time, all I wanted to do was end it, basically, because I just didn't see a way out of the pain. The turning point for me, and it doesn't have to be a turning point, but it's usually the lowest edge. I mean, for me, I was standing on top of a building in New York, thinking about jumping off. And that's tough. And after that, if you're not going to jump, which I knew I wasn't, you only have one way to go, and you have to take hold of your life and try and make something of it. What I realize now is that it's so important, particularly at that age, particularly in your 20s, to have almost like a roadmap forward. You know, I got myself into modeling, I got myself into a career, and I hadn't really planned anything beyond that. And now looking back, it just didn't make sense, because as I said, it won't last forever. It's impossible. It doesn't last. Fashion doesn't last forever. It's evolving the whole time, and I was going to evolve with it. Even to this day as well, you know, there's not a support network or mechanism around models, particularly. You go in at an early age. I went at 18. Models are going in even younger than that, and it's like you're thrown into the deep end. And it seems on the surface great, and it is. It's fantastic. You're in this wonderful world, but you haven't got the mechanism of support. And this is where, again, I think the Be Well is so important, because there's a pool of talented people that can come in and give models the support that they need to make sense of this world. The fundamental basis of modeling is the same. You go up for a job with a bunch of people, however many people it is, you either get it and you don't. And on the whole, no matter how successful you are, you're probably going to not get it more than you are going to get it. So there's a lot of rejection. This is almost amplified more recently through social media, because now everybody's realizing what everybody else is doing. And you only put stuff on social media when it makes you look good anyway. So if you're jetting off on some job as a model, and you post it on Instagram, then everybody knows about it. And you're sitting and you're thinking, right, okay, I wish I had got that job, or I wish I was in that situation. And it just compounds it. The other thing I think that is so damaging about social media, the way that we feel connected, or we have connections and contacts through social media, isn't the same as having a connection to somebody face to face. And that's where a lot of people really feel that, you know, the loneliness sets in, because I'm not getting that connection. that I should do, even though I may be connected to many, many people through social media. For me, in order to be happy, a lot of it is about expectations in our lives, about how much expectation we put on something. For example, in modeling, the expectations, obviously, if my expectations are extremely high and I don't reach it, then I'm not going to be particularly happy. If I bring my expectations down, it's not that I'm not going to achieve what I would like to achieve, but I don't have the expectations. It is a great way of managing happiness. It's about what we think our lives should be giving us. Managing those expectations, I think, are the best way to kind of be happy. Yeah, simple tools to deal with stress and anxiety, mental health issues. I love breathing exercises, and certainly I work with a lot of those. But if I was to think of one simple thing, it was understanding our relationship with thought. And this is where meditation comes in and is so powerful. Meditation not only gives you the ability to change your relationship with thought, but you can observe your thoughts. You can start to see how this thought process, although it's so powerful, is almost acting against you. Our thoughts, the conversation we have with ourselves is crazy. If we spoke to our friends like this, we probably wouldn't have any friends. So in meditation, we observe the thoughts and we change our relationship with thought by bringing ourselves to our body. So a lot of mindfulness-based meditation will bring you into the body. And when you bring yourself into the body doesn't have an intellect like the mind does. So it doesn't go through a thought process. So it brings you into the present moment. So in that present moment, you now have escaped the stories that you tend to tell yourself about the past. Regret and sorrow live in the past. Stress, anxiety, and fear live in the future. So we're either going into the past, projecting into the future. But when you come into this present moment, you drop into a space. And it's a respite. It's something where we can clear our minds and we can start to restore. And stress itself can then become intermittent. Anxiety becomes intermittent. It's nothing wrong with anxiety or stress itself. It's just the chronic nature of it. So if we can come out of that for a moment, then that's the most powerful thing. And that's where meditation for me is one of the main things that I work with. I think that as much as fashion is fantastic and I love it and it's creative and all the things that we want to be involved with it, we've got to be aware of how it can take its toll as far as the way that makes people feel about themselves, particularly mental health issues. And that's what I really care about being involved with the Be Well Collective, is that I feel I can give something back on that level.